leading global vendor of computer software, hardware for computers, mobiles and gaming systems. And in today's world, we can't imagine a life without Microsoft in technical field. So with this, welcome again to our very own channel Scareya, and today we will discuss a lot about Microsoft. The first version of Microsoft Word was developed by Charles Simonyi and Richard Brody from Xerox programmers hired by Bill Gates and Paul Allen in 1981. Both programmers worked on Xerox Bravo, the first what you see is what you get word processor. The first Word version, Word 1.0, was released in October 1983 for Xenex and MS-DOS. It was followed by 4 similar versions that were not very successful. The first Windows version was released in 1989 with a slightly improved interface. When Windows 3.0 was released in 1990, the Word became a huge commercial success. Word for Windows 1.0 was followed by the Word 2.0 in 1991 and Word 6.0 in 1993. Then it was renamed to Word 95 and Word 97. Word 2000 and Word for Office XP. With the release of Word 2003, the numbering was again year-based, since the Windows version include Word 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016, and most recently Word is Office in 1986 in agreement between Atari and Microsoft brought Word to the Atari ST. The Atari ST version was a translation of Word 1.05 for the Apple Macintosh. However, it was released under the name Microsoft Write. Unlike other versions of Word, the Atari version was one of the time released with no future updates or revision. The release of Microsoft Write was one of the 2 major PC applications that were released for the Atari ST. Microsoft Write was released for the Atari ST in 1988. In 2014, the source code for Word for Windows in the version 1.1a was made available to the Computer History Museum and the public for educational purposes. Word for DOS. The first Microsoft Word was released in 1983. It features graphic video mode and mouse support in a what you see as what you get interface. It could run in text mode or graphic mode, but the visual difference between the two was minor. In graphics mode, the document and interface was rendered in a fixed front size monospace character grid with italic, bold and underline features that was not available in text mode. It had support for style sheets in separate files. The first version of Word was a 16-bit PC-DOS MS-DOS application. A Macintosh 68000 version named Word 1.0 was released in 1985. The Microsoft Windows version was released in 1989. The 3 products shared the same Microsoft Word names. The name versions numbers but were very difficult product built on different code bases. 3 product lines coexisted. Word 1.0 to Word 2.0 for Windows and Word 1.0 to Word 5.5 for DOS. The first version of Word for Windows was released in November 1989 at a price of $498, but was not very popular as Windows users still comprised a minority of the market. The next year, Windows 3.0 debuted, followed shortly afterwards by the WinWord 1.1, which was updated for the new OS. The failure of the WordPerfect to produce a Windows version provoked a fatal mistake. The following year, in 1991, WinWord 2.0 was released, which had further improvements and finally solidified Word's marketplace dominance. WinWord 6.0 came out in 1993 and was designed for the newly released Windows 3.1. The early versions of Word also included copy protection mechanism that tried to direct debuggers, and if one was found it produced messages. The tree of evil bears bitter fruit. Only the shadow knows, now trashing program disk and performed a zero-seek on the floppy disk. After Mac Write, Word for Macintosh never had any serious rivals, although programs such as Nicest Writer provide features such as non-continuous selection, which were not added until Word 2002 in Office XP. Word 5.1 for the Macintosh released in 1992 was a very popular word processor, owing to its elegance, relative ease of use and feature set. However, version 6.0 for the Macintosh released in 1994 was widely derived. Unlike the Windows version, it was the first version of Word based on a common code base between the Windows and the Mac version. Many accused the Mac versions of being slow, clumsy, and memory intensive. With the release of Word 6.0 in 1993, Microsoft again attempted to synchronize the version of numbers and coordinate product naming across platforms, this time across the three versions for DOS, Macintosh, and Windows. There may have also been seen thought given to matching the current version 6.0 of WordPerfect for DOS and Windows, Word's major competitor. However, this wound up being the last version of Word for DOS. In addition, subsequent versions of Word were no longer referred to by a version number and were instead named after the year of their release, so once again breaking the synchronization. When Microsoft became aware of the year 2000 problems, it releases the entire DOS port of the Microsoft Word 5.5 instead of getting people to pay for the update. As of November 2019, it is still available for the download from Microsoft website. Word 6.0 was the second attempt to develop a common code-based version of the Word. The first code named Pyramid had been an attempt to completely rewrite the existing product. It was abandoned when Chris Peters replaced Jeff Trikers and the lead developer of the Word project, and determined it would take the development team too long to rewrite and let them catch up with the newer capabilities that could have been added in the same time without the rewrite. Therefore, Word 6.0 for Windows and Macintosh were both derived from the Word 2.0 for Windows code base. The Word 3.0 to 5.0 for Windows version numbers were skipped in order to keep the version number consistent between Macintosh and Windows version. Supporters of Pyramid claimed that it would have been faster, smaller, and more stable than the product that were eventually released for Macintosh, and which was compiled using a better version of Visual C++ 2.0 that targets the Macintosh. So many optimizations have to be turned off, and sometimes use the Windows API simulation library included. Pyramid would have been truly cross-platform with machines-independent applications code and a small mediation layer between the applications and operating systems. More recent versions of Word for Macintosh are no longer ported versions of Word for Windows. Later versions of Word have more capabilities than merely word processing. The drawing tool allows simple desktop publishing operations such as adding graphics to documents. Microsoft Office Word 95. Word 95 was released as part of Office 95 and was numbered 7.0, consistently with all the Office components. It ran exclusively on the Win32 platform, but otherwise had few new features. The file format did not change. Word 97. Word 97 had same general operating performances and later versions such as Word 2000. This was the first copy of featuring the Office Assistant, ClipPen, which was an animated helper used in all Office programs. Word 98. Word 98 for the Macintosh gained many features of Word 97 and was bundled with the Macintosh Office 98 package. Document capabilities reached parity with the Office 97, and Word on the Mac became a viable business alternative to its Windows counterpart. Unfortunately, Word on the Mac in this and later releases also became vulnerable to the future macro virus that could compromise Word documents, leading to the only situations where viruses could be cross-platform. A Windows version of this was the only bundle with the Japanese code in Microsoft Office 97 powered by Word 98 and could not be purchased separately. It was then released in the same period as well. Word 2001. Word 2001 bundled with the Macintosh Office for that platform, acquiring most, if not all, of the feature set of Word 2000. Released in October 2000, Word 2001 was also sold as an individual product. The Macintosh version Word X, released in 2001, was the first version to run natively on Mac OS X. Word 2002. Word 2002 was bundled with Office XP and was released in 2001. It had many of the same features as Word 2000, but had a major new feature called the task pane, which have quicker information and control to a lot of features that were before only available in model dialog boxes. One of the key advertising strategies of the software was to removal of the Office Assistant in favor of a new help system, although it was simply disabled by default. Word 2003. Microsoft Office 2003 is an Office suite developed and distributed by Microsoft for its Windows operating system. Office 2003 was released to manufacturing on August 19, 2003 and was later released to retail on October 21, 2003. It was a successor to Office XP and a predecessor to the Office 2007. Word 2004. A new Macintosh version of Office was released in May 2004. Substantial cleanup of the variation application created a very usable release. Microsoft releases patches through the years to eliminate most known micro vulnerabilities from this version, while Apple released Pages and the open source to community created Neo Office. Word remains the most widely used word processor on the Macintosh. Office 2004 for Mac is a version of Microsoft Office developed for Mac OS X. It is equivalent to Office 2003 for the Windows. The software was originally written for PowerPC Mac, so Macs with Intel CPUs must run the program under Mac OS X's Rosetta emulation layer. Also, stable releases v11.6.6 December 13, 2011, 7 years ago. Word 2007. The release includes numerous changes, including a new XML-based file format, a redesigned interface, an integrated equation editor, and bibliographic management. Additionally, an XML data bag was introduced, accessible via the object model and file format, called Custom XML. This can be used in conjunction with a few features called content controls to implement structured documents. It also has contextual tabs, which are functionality specific only to the object with focus, and many other features like live preview, mini toolbar, super tooltips, quick access toolbar, smart art, etc. Word 2007 uses a new file format called docs. Word 2000 to 2003 users on Windows system can install a free add-on called a Microsoft Office Compatibility Pack to be able to open, edit, and save the new Word 2007 files. Alternatively, Word 2007 can save the old doc format for Word 97 to 2003. Word 2008. Word 2008 was released on January 15, 2008. It includes some new features from the Word 2007, such as ribbon-like features that can be used to select page layouts and insert custom diagrams and images. Word 2008 also features native support for the new Office Open XML format, although the old doc format can be set as a default. Microsoft Office 2008 for Mac is a version of the Microsoft Office Productivity Suite for Mac OS X. It supersets Office 2004 for Mac and is the Mac OS X equivalent of Office 2007. Office 2008 was developed by Microsoft Macintosh Business Unit and releases on January 15, 2008. Word 2010. Microsoft Office 2010 is a version of Microsoft Office Productivity Suite for Microsoft Windows. Office 2010 was released to manufacturing on April 15, 2010 and was later made available for retail and online purchase on June 15, 2010. It is a successor to Office 2007 and a predecessor of the Office 2013. Word 2011. Microsoft Office for Mac 2011 is a version of the Microsoft Office Productivity Suite for Mac OS. It is the successor to Microsoft Office 2008 for Mac and is comparable to Office 2010 for Windows. Office 2011 was followed by Microsoft Office 2016 for Mac released on September 22, 2015, requiring a Mac with an x64 Intel processor and OS X Yosemite or later. Office for Mac 2011 is no longer supported as of October 10, 2017. Word 2013. The release of Word 2013 has brought Word a clear look, and this version focuses further on cloud computing with documents being sent automatically to OneDrive. If enabled, document and settings roam with the users. Other notable features are a new read mode which allows for horizontal scrolling of pages in columns, a bookmark to find whether the user left off reading their document, and opening PDF documents in Word just like a Word content. The versions released for the Windows 8 operating system is modified for use with a touchscreen and on tablets. It is the first version of Word to not run on Windows XP or Windows Vista. Word 2016. On July 9, 2015, Microsoft Word 2016 was released. Features include the Tell Me, Share and faster share formatting options. Other useful features include real-time collaboration, which allows users to store documents on SharePoint or OneDrive, as well as improved version history and a smart lookup tools. As usual, several editions of the program were released, including one for home and one for business. Word 2019. Word 2019 added support for scalable vector graphics, Microsoft 10 later, and LaTeX, as well as expanded drawing functionality. What includes with Office 365? Microsoft Office 365 is a prepaid subscription plan for the classic Office application. On April 4, 1975, at a time when most Americans used typewriters, childhood friends Bill Gates and Paul Allen found Microsoft, a company that makes computer software. Originally based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Microsoft relocated to Washington State in 1979 and eventually grew into a major multinational technology corporation. In 1987, the year after Microsoft went public, 31-year-old Gates became the world's youngest billionaire. Gates and Allen started Microsoft, originally called Microsoft, the microprocessor and software, in order to produce software for the Altair 8800, an early personal computer. Allen quit his job as a programmer in Boston and Gates left Harvard University, where he was a student, to focus on their new company, which was based in Albuquerque because the city was home to electronics from MIT's, maker of the Altair 8800. By the end of 1978, Microsoft sales topped more than $1 million, and in 1979 the business moved its headquarters to Bellevue, Washington, a suburb settles where Gates and Allen grew up. The company went to a license to its MS-DOS operating system to IBM for its first personal computer, which debuted in 1981. Afterward, other computer companies started licensing MS-DOS, which had no graphical interface and requiring users to type in commands in order to open a program. In 1983, Allen departed Microsoft after being diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was successfully treated for the disease and went to pursue a variety of other business ventures. In 1985, Microsoft released a new operating system, Windows, with a graphical user interface that includes drop-down menus, scroll bar, and other features. The following year, the company moved its headquarters to Redmond, Washington, and went public at $21 a share, raising $61 million. By the late 1980s, Microsoft had become the world's biggest personal computer software company based on sales. In 1995, amid skyrocketing purchases of the personal computers for home and office use, Windows 95 made its debut. It includes such innovations such as Smart Menu, and 7 million copies of the new products were sold in the first 5 weeks. During the second half of the 1990s, Internet users took off and Microsoft introduced its web browser, Internet Explorer, in 1995. In 1998, the US Department of Justice and 20 state attorneys general charged Microsoft with violating antitrust laws for using its dominance to drive competitors out of business. In 2001, the company reached a settlement with the government that imposed restriction on its corporate practices. Also in 2001, Microsoft joined the video game market within the launch of its Xbox console. Microsoft is engaged in developing, licensing, and supporting a range of software products and has services catering to different requirements. In 2000, Steve Ballmer was appointed the new CEO of Microsoft. Bill Gates met Steve Ballmer at Harvard University before he left. Although there was some concern over Ballmer's ability, Microsoft retained its top spot in both business and personal computer markets. Microsoft's primary strength and most of its profits were obtained from the business side, although the company recognized that they had a major presence in customer markets as technology advances. The successful Altair deal back in January 1975 inspired Bill Gates and Paul Allen to form Microsoft. The revenues for 1975 totaled $16,000. Microsoft's big break was in 1980 when a partnership was formed with IBM, which resulted in Microsoft providing a crucial operating system, DOS, for IBM PCs. This meant that for every IBM computer sold, a royalty was paid to Microsoft. In 1990, Gates showed the future plan for Microsoft with the introduction of Windows 3.0, and 60 million copies of Windows had been sold now, which effectively made Microsoft the sole keeper of the PC software standard. Microsoft before 1990 was predominantly a supplier to the hardware manufacturers. That was their target market. As technology advanced and personal computers became so popular, the bulk of Microsoft revenues were generated from sales to consumers. It was the first software company to reach $1 billion in revenues. As more and more versions of Microsoft Windows were launched, Microsoft captured a higher market share in world's PCs, around 90%. Project Longhorn in 2001 saw many of Microsoft's previous operating systems being replaced, starting with Vista. Vista was released to the general public in 2007 and it was the new operating system. There was many Vista options available catering for different consumers: home, ultimate, business and many more. Microsoft core customers, the corporate market, preferred Windows XP as the operating system was fast, stable and secure. Windows 7 was released in 2009 to replace Vista, which secured Microsoft lead to the software market. This was followed by the release of Windows 8 in October 2012, which included major changes to its OS platform and were user interface to improve user experience on tablets. Since then, Windows 8.1 has been released, which contained more improvements. Microsoft also entered the gaming and mobile phone market and was successful in capturing a large market share. The Windows Mobile OS is used for numerous sellers including HTC, LG, Samsung and LG. In 2001, Microsoft released the Xbox, followed by the Xbox Live in 2002. Both releases very successful, which placed Microsoft second in the video gaming market. The Xbox 360, released in 2005, was a very popular gaming console while facing strong competition. Microsoft had to cut the price of their gaming console to gain a higher market share due to the competition. This was a successful move. The Xbox 360 was the most used game console in American homes. Microsoft acquired Skype in 2011 for $8.5 billion. This was the largest acquisition in Microsoft history. Microsoft acquired Skype to compete with Apple's FaceTime and Google's Voice. Microsoft planned to add Skype to its products such as Outlook, Xbox and Windows smartphones. Microsoft has also recently moved into cloud computing with Windows Azure platform, which was announced in 2008. The Windows Azure platform lets consumers build computing infrastructure in the cloud and offer to its users. In 2011, Office 365, a cloud version of Office Business Software suite was released, which includes applications such as Word and Excel. Another popular product, Microsoft SQL Server 2012, featured many enhancements to previous versions. This includes Always On, which provided options to improve the database availability and easy cloud setup and compatibility. Features also includes performances and programmability enhancement. DSP Explorer provides soft support for all the versions and features of Microsoft SQL services across a wide variety of Windows platforms. Where the name Microsoft came from. On July 29, 1975, Gates used the name Microsoft, which had been suggested by Allen in a letter to Allen referring to their partnership. The name and a portmanteau of microcomputer and software was registered with the New Mexico Secretary of State on November 26, 1976. In August 1977, less than a year later, the company opened its first international office. The branch located in Japan was called ASCII Microsoft. In 1979, the company moved to Bellevue, Washington, and 2 years later it incorporated under the name Microsoft Inc. Gates was the president of the company and chairman of the board, and Allen was executive vice president. A short story of history of Microsoft. It all started with two childhood friends who were wild about their computers. Before Paul Allen and Bill Gates co-founded Microsoft, they were avid computer geeks in an age when access to computers was hard to come by. Allen and Gates even skipped high school classes to live and breathe in their school's computer room. Eventually, they hacked the school's computer and were caught, but instead of being expelled, they were offered ultimate computer time in exchange of helping to improve the school's computer performance. With the help of partner Paul Gilbert, Gates and Allen ran their own small company, Trap O Data, while in high school and sold a company to a city of Seattle of counting their city traffic. In 1973, Gates left Seattle to attend Harvard University as a pre-law student. However, Gates' first love never left him as he spent most of his time in Harvard's computer center, where he kept improving his programming skills. Soon Allen moved to Boston as well, working as a programmer and pursuing Gates to leave Harvard so they could work together full-time on their project. Gates was uncertain of what to do, but fate stepped in. The birth of Microsoft. In January 1975, Allen read an article in Popular Electronics magazine about the Altair 8800 microcomputer and showed it to Gates. Gates called Metz, maker of the Altair, and offered his and Allen's services to write a version of the new basic programming language of the Altair. After 8 weeks, Allen and Gates demonstrated their program to MITS, which agreed to distribute and market the product under the name Altair Basics. The deal inspired Gates and Allen to form their own software company. Thus, Microsoft was started on April 4, 1975 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the home of MIT, with Gates as the first CEO. Where the name Microsoft came from. On July 29, 1975, Gates used the name Microsoft, which had been suggested by Allen in a letter to Allen referring their partnership. The name, a portmanteau of microcomputer and software, was registered with the New Mexico Secretary with start with November 26, 1976. In August 1977, less than a year later, the company opened its first international office. The branch located in Japan was called ASCII Microsoft. In 1979, the company moved to Bell Avenue, Washington, and 2 years later it incorporated under the name Microsoft Inc. Gates was president of the company and chairman of the board, and Allen was executive vice president. History of Microsoft products. An operating system is a fundamental of software that allows the computer to operate. As a newly formed company, Microsoft's first operating system product to be publicly released was a version of Unix called Xenix. Released in 1980, Xenix was later used as a basic computer software first word processor multi-tool word. Xenix was later used as a basic for Microsoft first word processor multi-tool word, a predecessor to Microsoft Word. Microsoft's first widely successful operating system was MS-DOS, which was written for IBM in 1981 and based on computer programmer Tim Patterson's QDOS. In the deal of the century, Gates licensed MS-DOS to IBM but retained the rights to the software. As a result, Gates made a fortune for Microsoft, which had become a major software vendor. Microsoft Mouse. Microsoft's mouse was released on May 2, 1983. Also in 1983, Microsoft's crowning achievement was released. The Microsoft Windows operating system had a novel graphical user interface and a multitasking environment for IBM computers. In 1986, the company went to public. The success meant that Gates became a billionaire at the age of 31. Microsoft Office. In 1989, marked the release of Microsoft Office, a software package that, as the name describes, is a collection of programs for use in an office. Still used today, it includes word processors, spreadsheet, mail program, business presentation software, and more. Internet Explorer. In August 1995, Microsoft released Windows 95. This included technologies for connecting to the internet, such as built-in support for dial-up networking, TCP/IP, and the web browser Internet Explorer 1.0. Xbox. In 2001, Microsoft introduced its first gaming unit, Xbox System. Xbox faced stiff competition from Sony's PlayStation, and eventually, Microsoft discontinued the original Xbox in favor of later versions. In 2005, Microsoft released the Xbox 360 gaming console, which was a success. Microsoft Surface. In 2012, Microsoft made its first foray into the computing hardware marketing with the announcement of Surface tablets that run Windows RT and Windows. In November 2018, the company won a $480 million military contract with the US government to bring augmented reality headset technology into the weapon repertoires of American soldiers. The 2-year contract may result in follow-on orders of more than 1 lakh headsets, according to the documentation describing the bidding process. One of the contract's tagline for the augmented reality technology seems to be its ability to enable 25 bloodless battles before the first battle, suggesting that actual combat training is going to be an essential aspect of the augmented reality headset capabilities. 8 Pro. So with this, here comes the end of this video that we all have for Microsoft. Its establishment, its history, its founders, its ups, its downs. So hope you all guys will love this video and found it informative. So please subscribe our channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and please hit the bell icon for the more upcoming content. And share and like your video as much as you can. Till then, take care, bye bye, and stay tuned for our upcoming ones.